fine today, just as it was in the past. Rich is really not the past, because what's going on today is still what went on in the past is still going on today. Based upon politics, religion, sociology, the social order. What I found out today by going around, this economic system is so broken right now. So many people are in dire strait right now. Now you have this whole COVID thing that's trying to return, and when you see the people out in the fields, it puts them in the position because they're afraid to submit to a whole lot of things that they really shouldn't, because it's not going to benefit them in any shape, form, or fashion concerning their present condition. There's a whole lot of preaching that's going on out here that's not really giving anyone any answers, and therefore any resolve to their lives. It's almost like sitting at a table eating food from imaginary food from an empty plate. And this was one of my primary concerns when I was working with a brother who was, to my understanding, didn't have the proper focus on what should be talked about out here concerning what's going on in the world. There's a whole lot of people that are more concerned about sitting at a table, going back and forth, debating one another to see who understands the scriptures better than the other one. And you have all of these people sitting at these tables for hours, going back and forth behind information that has already been contaminated for thousands of years. And when you're dealing with this type of information, it doesn't do anything but cause a whole lot of discord, between one another. And becoming brothers and executing a brotherhood is pretty much not possible, because you're going to be at these tables going back and forth with one another. And unfortunately, because of the difference in opinions, a whole lot of these the gatherings, you might as well say, that these brothers are not going to separate in peace. I've seen this plenty times. I've been telling brothers all the time, the difference in opinion is what the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is. The knowledge of good and evil is a dual constitution, to where you have perceptions and philosophies and all of those different aspects of information that's going to always clash between one another. This is why Yeshua said, except a man be born again in spirit. The people may say, well, that came from knowledge. But it's liberating you from knowledge, the common knowledge that's going to have men battling one another. Look at what's going on over there in Palestine right now. All of that is behind the difference of opinions written down through some information that people put together, and they put it in books, and all of these, everything that's going on right now is because of the difference in opinion, because information has been contaminated. Information has been contaminated. My whole thing is, when are we going to get to the point to where we can have a difference in opinion and sit at the table so that we all can come together and we can work towards that one understanding? But you never get there because of the difference in opinion, and information has been designed to separate mankind. It always has. This is the reason why the creator was telling them, if you consume this knowledge of good and evil, then you will die surely. You will surely die. And look at the world today. Look at how many friendships have broken up simply because of information. Now, sooner or later, I'm going to talk about the experience that I had at Exalt Ministries back in between 1999 and the year, you might as well say like 2002, because that's how long that I was in touch with this particular group of people. But the whole thing is, when you all come together to do something for the greater good, which surpasses what the world asserts is good, what I've noticed in my study is that people who are on the common level, when they have misunderstandings, all it takes is a spirit of time in order to kill the situation. And when you see these people come back together, it's nothing but love there and resolve, and all of their differences have been forgotten. And it's just only love there. But what I've noticed when it comes to ministry and when it comes to areas of the church and different ministries in terms of religious differences, there is no resolve there. No resolve there. You know, I was not too long ago taking a walk up at Sunset Park, and the young lady who I used to love, and she used to love me, out of Exalt Ministries. This was a few months ago. So I was up there taking a walk, but I wasn't taking a walk at this time that it happened. But I was sitting in my car and I was getting my thoughts together. And this young lady comes up, and for some strange reason, my car parked right directly next to hers, but her Jeep was like on the other side, and it was off ahead on the right-hand side. And so she came out, she went into her Jeep or truck or whatever it was. She looked at me, she had sunglasses on. She looked at me, she opened up, and she got something out of her vehicle, and she slammed the door real hard, and she just stormed off. And I'm like, what did I do? You know, you ask stupid questions like that. And the reason why I say those questions are stupid is because you know that you haven't done anything. And not only to this particular individual, but people within that whole experience. And so what I've noticed is that when it comes to the so-called spiritual world, when things end, it goes into death. It doesn't end in a wounded sense. It ends in death, to where no one speaks to one another anymore. I mean, even if you come together as a ministry or a brotherhood or a sisterhood, and if it doesn't work out, it shouldn't end in hatred, because the only thing that is revealed is that hatred was always the intention, you know, and hatred was always the drive from the beginning. And this is one of the reasons why it ended as such. But what I've noticed in the so-called world, the people out here in the world, it's easy for them to resolve their differences. I seen that today when I was walking, me and another brother was walking through the West Side, and we was just shown a whole lot of things. You know, we saw some brothers who hadn't seen each other in years, and we listened to their conversation. We've listened to a whole lot of conversations today, you know, and for some reason, the spirit of resolve was flowing through the West Side. And so we saw a whole lot of people who were resolving their differences. And none of these people were church members. But in the religious world, you've given yourself to some information to the point to where there's no love there. Because when you have your differences based upon your perception and viewpoint of this particular information, whether it's Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, or whatever the case may be, it ends in death. I've seen a brother went back and forth with a young man sitting at their dinner table, and simply because they had a difference of opinion, it ended in death, simply because of information. So there's no love there. There's no resolve there. So it's like for years, everyone has been going their separate ways. And that's fine. You know, sometimes that happens in life. But when the Creator have one another cross each other's path, where's all the hatred coming from? Have you exalted yourself to a state of enlightenment that you still holding on to hatred? Because that doesn't make any sense. And why are you holding on to hatred that wasn't placed there by people in whom you claim that you were serving God with? You know, so when you're dealing with the religious world, you have to be very careful. If not, let it go all. Just totally let it go. Because it seems like these so-called people who are of the world, they are a whole lot more spiritual than people who claim that they live in a spiritual life. So it was a beautiful observation. And I'm going to eventually get around to talking about that experience, because it was a lot in it. You know, it was a lot of false prophecy. It was a lot of racism. It was a whole lot of deception and everything. But today, we walked the community again, and we had a lot of chances to talk to a whole lot of people in the community, and we had a chance to listen to a whole lot of conversations, as I used to do when I was a kid in Chicago. And in spite of the surroundings over there, the people who do not attend churches are in much better spirits than the people that do. So that's going to eventually have to be addressed. But we are in the process now, as I said before. We're teaching people about the United States Constitution and all that consists of, which is somewhat equivalent to what the disciples were talking and teaching the people about back in the days of Rome, when Nero was the emperor, and how the disciples were helping people understand how the common festivities and the games were detrimental to their minds and their souls. You know, and this is another thing that I come in not too long ago realized, because I pulled myself away from boxing, and right now my body is suffering a whole lot of withdrawal, because for so many years my body has been utilized for inflicting brutality on other people, on my brothers, and taking brutality from them. And you know, once your body gets accustomed to that, what hurts most people, it doesn't even phase you. But once you start to pull away from that, and you're no longer in there sparring and brutalizing people and taking brutality, you, like myself, will wake up one morning and your body is going through withdrawal, and it's retaliating against you because you brutalized it for so many years. And so you wake up one day and everything from head to toe hurts. Everything hurts. But you're blessed to understand that your body is going through a physical related withdrawal. And if you talk to a whole lot of boxers, a lot of boxers experience that when they pull away from boxing because their minds have been risen to another state of enlightenment, and you just don't want to brutalize other people anymore, and you don't want people brutalizing you anymore. And once you think about it honestly, and if you look back on your life, you will come to understand how much time that you wasted because you're so caught up in these games. You know, you want to be the champion of the world, and all of those things are great, you know, but when it all boils down to it, those things have very little meaning, because the root motivation of all of that, in spite of how much a whole lot of brothers and sisters enjoy this life, you wouldn't be doing it had it not been a whole lot of money involved. And so that's what the disciples were trying to help the people understand during the days of Rome, when Nero was in charge. And so once they started teaching people the same way that we're going around teaching people about the Constitution of the United States, all of a sudden the disciples were attacked, and they were grouped up and fed to the lions. And so this is one of the reasons why I say what transpired thousands of years ago is still going on right now. What's going on right now? It's the same system. It's the same system. You know, Egypt used to do the same thing. Rome used to do the same thing. And after Rome fell, then you had Great Britain. And out of Great Britain and Spain comes America. And so we're still caught in that cycle of brutality and hatred and different points of views and all of those things. And in time, all of this is going to be resolved. But what it is, a whole lot of people are going to have to come out of their comfort zones and their egos and their wanting to be famous. I had a brother that said, I want to be the greatest evangelist on the planet. And I told him how dangerous that statement is. So you want to be above your peers inside of a lifestyle in which is supposed to not have that type of mentality and drive in it. You know, this lifestyle is supposed to be a peaceful lifestyle. But I totally understand, considering the type of system that we have to live in because of what transpired in history, put us right over here in what is called Babylon. We were born here, and we come up in an environment consciously and yet unconsciously. And as we come up, we conform to a whole lot of things that we shouldn't conform to. But you know, sometimes it takes you more than half your lifestyle to come to understand those things. So I'm gonna move on here and get me some more meditation done, because I was meditating, and I just came out of meditation. I just wanted to share a few thoughts. And things are going to get better, but the only way that things are going to get better, we have to become better human beings. And we can't walk around with all of this hatred built up inside of us simply because we have different point of views. Because when it all boils down to it, if we are observing any information, and if we are left to have different point of views, it's all a lie anyway. Because if it was the facts, then we would we would perceive all of this information one mind, because that's when you're dealing with facts. When you're dealing with falsehood and you're reading something, and if you're sitting in a circle and you're asking one another, what's your take on this? This person gives their point of views. You give your point of views. Everybody have a different point of view, but all at the same time, people will get up and leave and think that they actually realize what the facts are. It's not the facts. Because if we all perceive the facts of things and the truth of things, then we would all get up and we would all have that one perception, that one truth that sits up inside of that information. And we wouldn't leave with conflict, ending brotherhoods and sisterhoods, all of that. So this is why the Creator had told them, eat not. In other words, don't perceive that, don't take that in. The knowledge of good and evil. Good and evil is a constitution of contradiction, and it's a constitution, is a dual constitution. So you're never going to find out what the facts are, because it's dual. You're always going to be in this cycle of hatred and disagreement and all of those things. This is why you have to evolve beyond those. This is the reason why he said you have to be born again in the spirit. The renewing of the mind. You can't be afraid. You have to let go of everything that you know currently in order for you to understand what the facts are. And the facts are not something that is written down. You find out what the facts are through your observation of what is, without comparisons. That's pretty much all it is. It's not complicated. It's not as complicated as we've been taught it is. It's really not. You know, we've only been made to believe that it's complicated so that we will end up relying upon these lying and deceptive pastors. So with all of this being said, I'm just gonna move on from this. Just wanted to share some thoughts because I need to get back into meditation so I can get some more meditation going on. But there's a whole lot going on right now. So everyone have a good night. All right. Stay human. It's another night of deep meditation. I was, you might as well say, struggling to die more and more inside, that I may be able to be led in other areas of my being that I was curious about, even in the sacred area of myself. I think what was beautiful about meditation to me is that you're not focusing on anything. You're not listening to anything. You're not sitting in a particular posture or anything like that, and therefore your mind is not on maintaining that posture or anything like that. But I just love meditation. I love it. It brings me so many answers, and it adds to the peace that I already have inside, and it helps me to even accept areas that my past brings up that I would like to resolve. I still have the desire to resolve, but I find a peace inside, or an inner peace is presented to me, and it transmits to my mind to where no longer be concerned about those things that are unresolved, because they are actually resolved. And the only reason why we feel as though those areas of our past or being like that are left unresolved is because we have not yet died to the degree to where we're able to honestly let go of those experiences, because there's so much love present. But what I learned tonight from meditation is that in spite of how much you are still able to love those people or those experiences, you still have to learn how to love oneself enough to let go and to move forward, and no longer torture yourself in holding on to those things, when realistically you'll never be able to repeat those things. And so you have to, but the lesson with that is to learn how to enjoy the very present at a 100%. The very moment, just take it all in, the very moment, without trying to concentrate on paying so much attention presently. Just humble, just allow yourself to be humble and just be present along with the present. But I would like to get back to discussing my previous video, the effects of information. And what I had brought up in that video is the death of friendships and brotherhood and sisterhood, that people who carry religious doctrine have a common tendency of doing to one another. And I told a pastor not too long ago, actually, the knowledge of good and evil is common religious doctrine. Because if you look at the Bible, the Quran, or any so-called spiritual book, which are just mainly just religious books, what's in there is information of what is good and what is evil. And you have to go back to what Yeshua has said: except a man be born again in spirit, he will not see the kingdom. The word also says that the spirit of truth will guide you into all truth. It never said a doctrine or information would do it. And so it all goes back to when the Creator had told them, eat not of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so for centuries, that's exactly what we've been doing, involving ourselves in religious doctrine. Now, despite how far-fetched that is, you prove to me otherwise. Because every religious institution that I've ever experienced in, I've had experience with, what causes a whole lot of grief, strife, grief, and the death of friendships and brotherhoods is religious doctrine. The information that we get from religious doctrine. And so that's pretty much what the previous video was talking about. And so when you become spiritual, it means that you've evolved beyond mere knowledge of good and evil. See, the knowledge of good and evil is tangible. Spiritual enlightenment is not tangible. Knowledge of good and evil, which is religion, comes from a book, it's tangible, it has commandments and laws and all of those things, do's and do not. But when you become a spiritual being, it implies that you have fulfilled and therefore evolved past mere knowledge, laws, commandments, and you become one with the spirit of righteousness and therefore God. Except the man be born again in the spirit. So the reason why I bring that up is because as long as we are going back and forth with these doctrines, and these laws, and well, the Jewish calendar means this. No, it doesn't. It means this. It's information that has a lot of good intending people clashing. Now, I won't sit here and deny the fact that most of the people that I've come in contact with in church institutions, in ministries, everyone has good intentions. But the only reason why those ministries and those church institutions have no strife is because everyone is on that one accord. Everyone agrees with one another. But God forbid, if someone comes into the environment who has a spiritual perception of things, all of a sudden this person is misunderstood because they don't see things the way that we see things. Or where is he getting his interpretation from? This was said about me when I was in Exalt Ministries by you might as well say the founder of Exalt Ministries, talking to a brother of mine who I was close to, named Brother Angel. So, and therefore I was discussed. And as that seems to be the case, no matter where I go, because I'm told that I have a different take on the scriptures, because nothing is going to be taken in by me unless it's clarity. And the only way that it's going to be clarity to me is if I have to see this particular information functioning not only in my life, but the life of others and in society. That's what makes it a fact to me. I have to be able to see it. I have to be able to experience it. I'm not the type of man that's going to be left to believe anything. I tell people, if I was one of the disciples, I would be doubting Thomas. I'm going to doubt everything you tell me until you make it real to me. You have to make it real to me, because I don't want to be left believing anything. I want to be certain. I want to be certain. Because left believing something, it has a very vulnerable feeling to it. I hope that this happened. Hope, vulnerability, doubt, uncertainty, all of those things. All of those things. So what mainly the video was talking about is the death of brothers and sisters and friendships and families based upon common communication. There's so much hatred in these ministries when one sees things differently, and instead of trying to understand why they came up with that conclusion, they're criticized behind their backs. I brought up the young lady that was loving me and I was loving her. I brought her up for a reason, because it doesn't make sense if a group of people have good intentions on doing something for the betterment of humanity, and simply because everything failed because of a whole lot of mistakes that a lot of people made, a whole lot of backstabbing and all of those things. I will never understand how people can assert themselves to be together for a certain amount of time and say that they want to do something for the Lord and therefore to make the world a better place. And then when it doesn't work out because of various reasons, like people are not agreeing with one another, when everything breaks up, years go by, you try to reach out to people, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? You never get a response. You see them in the environment. They see you and they have this hatred towards you. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. So what was that all about? But I do know one thing, in my particular case, it pretty much revealed what I was into and what I was, skeptical to get into. But as I said, I'm going to go into my experience with Exalt Ministries, most likely after this video. But when it comes to information, if you look at all of the turmoil that this earth is suffering, the religious turmoils, the political destruction about the earth, it's all because of information. Now, I have a question that I've moved to a lot of pastors, and I asked them, where did the knowledge of good and evil come from? Why did the Creator instruct them, told them, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Don't eat from that tree. It's cold around here because our building had went out early because it was out here raining, and so our electricity just came on over here about 20 minutes ago. But the whole thing is, when the Creator said, eat not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, if you consume, you might as well say, this information, you will surely die. And a lot of pastors just move forward. I tell a lot of pastors, if you pay attention, the Creator warned them not to consume that particular information, or you will surely die. Well, what state were they in when this was said? Did they follow a doctrine? No. Did they have any information? No. What state of mind were they in? The Creator spoke it, and they obeyed it, and they executed it. What did Yeshua say? Anything the Father tells me to do, I do. That's the state of being that Adam and Eve were in. They didn't question anything. So you start questioning things when you accumulate information, because you can't question anything unless you have information. And so my question to them was, where did the knowledge of good and evil come from? Because according to the Bible, the reason why the Creator told them to stay away from that and don't consume it is because obviously there was a history of the knowledge of good and evil that we were never told about. And the Creator knew that that information would not be beneficial for mankind. And if you look at the world today, the reason why so many brothers and sisters are hating each other for absolutely no reason, because you don't believe what I believe. Information. Now, if you believe in the same way that I believe it, if we believe it the same way, then I love you. And you're going to heaven with me. But if you don't believe the way that I believe, then you're going to hell, which is hatred. Because we all know what is written in these holy books in terms of what transpires in hell, which is information. All of this is supposed to transpire in hell. Well, what goes on in hell? You're going to burn for eternity. Okay, now 5 minutes ago you was loving me. Now, simply because I disagree with you based upon this information, now you don't have a problem with me burning in the fires of hell, in the depths of hell for eternity. How hypocritical. And you wonder why the Creator told mankind not to accumulate information. I hope you're getting this, because when you become born again, it means that the person who you were formerly was the person who accumulated all of this information. But when you become born again in the Spirit, it means you have been liberated from mere information, which is enlightenment, which is you're now free from what you previously known, which was religious doctrine. I ask, what religious doctrine did Yeshua belong to? What did he? He never said that he was a Jew. He never said that he was a Christian. He never said he was a spiritual man. He said he was the seed of David according to the flesh, but he declared himself the Son of God according to the spirit of what? Holiness. Spirit of holiness. What religion is the spirit of holiness? It is no religion. The spirit of, which means nature, holiness implies a state of being, not someone or anything in relation to a religious doctrine written by mankind. See, it's these different constitutions that come out of the knowledge of good and evil that a whole lot of us have given ourselves to. This is what has us sitting at tables, arguing back and forth, when before we was just sitting there eating enjoying each other's company. Y'all have to excuse me. It's still kind of cold in here, and my place is slowly warming up, and I'm just trying to prevent myself from catching a cold. Excuse me 1 second. One. We have to understand the importance of death in that sense. If you're gonna die to anything, don't allow your relationship with your brother and your sister go into death if you are indeed a spiritual human being. You don't wish for them to burn in hellfire, because so many of you have that mentality, and that is very earthbound. That's very earthbound. Because if you look at Yeshua, he didn't want anyone to suffer the fires of hell. That's why he's called the Savior. He comes to save you from yourself and not to condemn you, because no one in whom he came in contact with, he didn't have hatreds, and no, none of them. He wanted everyone to make it into the kingdom. But you don't see that with the religious world. You agree with me, or you going to hell. You either a Christian, or you going to hell. You either say the Most High or Yahweh instead of the Creator, or you going to hell. You either believe what I believe, the way that I believe it, or you going to hell. And a lot of you know that's exactly the way this information has caused you to feel on the inside when it comes to your so-called brother and sister. While you're accumulating this information, you need to check yourself, because we've lost a lot of people. Brother Malcolm X was considered a hypocrite, and they wouldn't let Brother Malcolm rest until they caught him and shot him dead. Religion. You do that in the political world. Oh, you don't agree with the way we live over here? But then we're gonna go to war. Or we're gonna drop a bomb on your nation and just obliterate you, because you refuse to live the way we want you to live. So we're just gonna blow you up. Very similar to the religious realm. Very similar. Y'all need to check yourselves. You really need to check yourselves. And maybe you need to get some meditation in so that you can be led in, so some things can be shown to you. But I know the religion of Christianity, no, they don't want you to look inside. No. They already got you praying outside of yourself for God. They got you praying, looking up. When Yeshua told you the kingdom of God in heaven is within you. Within you. You know, Father Abraham, he didn't look up when he prayed. He bowed down like the Muslim. Now, when Farrakhan learned that Father Abraham prostrated himself in the same way that the Muslim does, he accused Father Abraham of being Muslim, simply because that's the way he prayed. That's very convenient, Farrakhan. That's very convenient. However, Farrakhan was not a Muslim. He wasn't a religious man either. None of them belonged to a religion. And then all of a sudden you get to the New Testament, and all of a sudden here comes this religion, Christianity. And all hell breaks loose. Prophet Muhammad has said, 3 generations after me will no longer be of me, of my mind and my spirit. So he said 60 physical years after his death, physical death, Islam will no longer exist. So what is this you're practicing this day? That if Prophet Muhammad decided to just show up, do you think Prophet Muhammad would accept the world of Islam today? No, he would not. And I'm saying that to your face. According to his own words, he would not accept you. Why? Hanbali, Hanafi, all of these different sects of Islam, and therefore different areas of information. Is the body of Christ divided? What has divided the body of Christ? Information. You're just a bunch of fragments claiming the whole. That's all you are. And you're condemning one another. This is why knowledge should have never been accumulated. It is the effects of knowledge that has the human family in turmoil. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to live this way? Or are we going to find ourselves willing to die the real death and the good death so that we may live, truly live?